Hello, everybody. We'll wait a few more minutes while we all trickle in. In the meantime, we could do a round of intros. So today we're going to be talking about brand loyalty and how to use your fitness apps to create more customer engagement, retention, and also plan scalability if you're planning on opening multiple locations. And we have a really great lineup of panels today, Wendy, Carl, and Ben. So I'll let you each introduce yourselves with the question of how do you fit in the fitness scene? And Wendy, maybe you can kick us off.
Okay, fantastic. Good morning, everybody. I'm Wendy White. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Partner Officer, Daxko. If you don't know Daxko, if you've been to a boutique CrossFit studio or martial arts studio, walked into any major fitness club or come to a YMCA recently, you've touched our software during the check-in process, and in any kind of member experience that you might have through a mobile app, or through the marketing that those clubs are serving you.
Awesome. Ben.
Hi, Ben Borton, co-founder of PodPlay Technologies. We're a vertical SaaS company serving participatory sports venues, primarily in the pickleball market. We do reservations, we do memberships, payments, events, all the things that you would expect in kind of a club management tool, but we do it fully integrated with hardware solutions. So we do digital scoreboards, we do video replays, and we've pioneered the autonomous operating model, so allowing clubs to operate without on-site staff. We did that first as an operating company. So we have an operating brand called PingPod that has 20 plus autonomous table tennis locations. We partnered with Kisi on the door access side there, and we're now supporting 45 venues across the U.S. and a little bit globally that are operating without on-site staff. So we're seeing that's an exciting new model that opens up a whole bunch of new avenues for providing experiences.
Awesome. Carl.
Yes, hello, I'm Carl Pfeiffer, CTO at Kisi, and we power access control for a lot of fitnesses around the world, fitness centers, wellness spaces, quite a lot of different types of fitness facilities. And our goal is to make these facilities smarter, more secure, and deeply connected to some of the tools we already got to know just a few seconds ago. So I'm here to share today to share how tech can turn these gyms and fitness experiences into something that is loyalty building. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that sets the context pretty well for why we're having this session today. Of course, fitness is not an industry that is new. I think it's fair to say that across America and across really the global scene, gyms and traditional recreational facilities, golf simulators, wellness facilities are something that most customers and consumers like to take advantage of. But right now we're really at an influx where technology, innovation, AI, all sorts of machines and data analytics are converging with what we can do and what we can action with our health and our data. So it's really interesting to be having this discussion with all of you. Ben, maybe you can give us a few more context, like where do you see fitness apps headed in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of personalization, automation, AI?
Yeah, I think there's a few major trends. One is hardware plus software. So if you think of kind of the evolution of a lot of these apps, you had sort of, things that were happening manually, and then they were replaced by things that sat on the desktop, and then everything went mobile and into the cloud. I think the next iteration is hardware and software working in consort. So some of the things we're doing with kind of video replays, digital scoreboards, having that as a fully integrated experience. Door access also becomes part of this. So these are not things that sit separately, which is kind of the next piece that I would say from a trend standpoint is it's integration over point solutions. And I think AI has a role to play here. I think historically, you've had a lot of people building different pieces of the stack and then trying to stitch them together, whether that's through API integrations or through somebody rolling those up by buying them. I think with AI, you'll see, more people who have the control point try to kind of build more of that functionality into kind of a single app, because integration always sounds nice, but when you have two different companies working together, it can be hard because you have different kind of incentives that are working in different directions. And so I think you'll see more people try to kind of do full stack offering And then the last is really tech eating to the labor budget. So I think, traditionally sort of tech companies have fought for the tech budget. And I looked at some of kind of the US labor, Bureau of Labor statistics on fitness companies or fitness venues. I think if you look at the 2022 data, they spent close to a third of their budget or a third of their revenue on labor. So that's, your two biggest costs are rent and labor. And traditionally, tech has just been the thing that kind of, sits alongside labor, hopefully makes that labor more efficient. I think we have some real opportunities to replace that labor or redirect it towards things that are more value add. So not necessarily replace, but redirect into areas that are more revenue generating, that improve the experience rather than just kind of, keep the trains running on time.
Wendy, what are some strategies that you've seen work? I like what you said, Ben, about redirecting it. It's not about erasing something or necessarily removing, but it's just changing that narrative to make sure tech is central.
I think Ben's points are spot on, and I just think about the implications of that for the fitness business provider. We're going to enter this era of kind of the democratization of that technology to any type of fitness business. So, previously, I think some of the, in my world, some of the larger clubs could afford their own standalone mobile app and maybe had their own strategy around bringing all their member experiences together in one app. But then you go, down the street to your boutique fitness, and they have very, lightweight mobile experience, maybe for check-in only, maybe for group scheduling only, like book a fitness class or hold your wait list. What I think Ben's pointing to is we're just going to enter an era of, I think, explosive innovation in this space, in particular in mobile, because all our devices are the center of our, interaction now. And so you're going to see everything you talked about, but bringing that, into an app that is available, for the smallest boutique fitness studio all the way up to the largest club. The trends that you talked about, the ease of integration, the AI replacing the human touch or allowing it to expand into, other innovative areas are going to accelerate. And I think for, players like Daxko, for us, this means that we really need to think about our mobile app as a platform in a way that we've never had before. And that means all the ecosystem integrations will be seamless. That, anything that the club wants to add, from the door access to the integration with the in-gym equipment to the, yesterday I went and had a cryotherapy bed at my gym. Like, all that's going to be integrated, so it will know what I will do. It will offer up personalized recommendations. It will have, personal notifications. My virtual and my in-gym experiences are all going to be there. Like, we're going to go through a very fast pace of innovation, and mobile is going to be the center of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Carl, I don't know if you want to add any comments on this, but something that I think about often as well is just how the fitness industry, just like any other industry, also needs to borrow the best of what other industries are doing, because the customer expectations are not segmented, they're not siloed. If I receive an Amazon package in a day and then I later want to return it in the same day, there is a way for me to do that. And in the fitness industry, as well as others, like, you want that same experience to be relevant. So when I check in for my flight, when I return something, I want that to be replicated in how I access my gym. And Carl, I think, of course, with digital and mobile credentials, that's a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I've been wondering is how AI is going to change this, because the way I go to the gym today compared to how I went to the gym 10 years ago hasn't changed as dramatically yet, but I think it will change with AI becoming more commonplace. And there are a couple of things that I would appreciate at the gym helping me to, arrive at a time that's more convenient, less crowded. And I think access control has a place there, a really important place. And I think with AI, we'll find something which is more of a concierge model, where the AI helps craft a fitness experience that is perhaps more on the hospitality side, because as I was saying, the way I go to the gym today is not very different from 10 years ago. I think the only addition I have now is a locker that I can use with my fitness card. So I think it's ripe for innovation, as Wendy was saying, and I think a lot is still going to happen
Do you actually use the locker?
sometimes.
Nice. And Ben, I know you wrote an article as well on how AI is sort of like changing all of this and the expectations. I think one key word that businesses like to refer to when measuring success is, of course, customer retention. How would you say that's different or compares to the concept of brand loyalty? And how can fitness apps communicate that effectively and measure it, of course?
Yeah, so I think a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So to me, the ultimate measure is referrals. And there's a B2B version of this and there's a B2C version of this. If people aren't talking about you, if you haven't created an experience that people are excited about, they want to tell other people about, then you really don't have a brand. You're a solution. You're a solution that's probably good enough until another one comes along that's a little bit better. But truly building a brand is you're building fans. And so that is, and there are a lot of components that go into that, right? It's culture, it's messaging, it's taste. I think the blog that you're talking about is we've implemented taste as really a strategic thing. I think we hire people who have taste, who have very strong points of view on what works and what doesn't from kind of a user experience standpoint. We're very protective of user experience. So we get, there's almost never a day that goes by that I get some inbound about wanting to do an integration. And anytime we talk about integrations, it's like, I don't want to do something that adds functionality, but makes the experience worse. So we're very, very ruthless. And I think working with Kisi has been great because we've been able to create a seamless experience. When somebody has a reservation, they just pull up their reservation. If they're within 15 minutes of the reservation, they get a nice button on their phone that says, press to unlock door and check in. And now we have clubs that are operating without a front desk staff. They can stay open 24 hours, increases their capacity. It opens up a whole kind of wealth of opportunities. But that's an example of an integration that works perfectly. Kisi hardware is kind of integrated into our platform. It's a simple API call that's opening that door access. It's time bound relative to reservation. Nobody has to punch in nobody has to pull out an email and look up a code and punch in something. That's the kind of frictionful. I'm not sure that's a word. Full of friction experience that we're trying to avoid. So I think all of those things add up, right? And it's both what is the experience that you're producing in an app, and then how do you talk about it? And I think we'll probably talk more about this later. Is one of the things that AI changes is how you get discovered, whether that's discovering a gym or a pickleball club or software or technology solutions. And I like to say, if you're operating in stealth, then you're invisible to LLMs, right? And the world we live in now, you're moving from kind of like a Google search thing to a lot of this function, the discovery function is happening through LLMs. So there's a real imperative to kind of build in public. And that's something that we've always philosophically thought is a good thing. Build in public, tell people what we're about. We have strong views. We stand for this. We stand against that. And you'll find that you basically find your tribe and the people who kind of our message resonates with. It tends to resonate very, very, very strongly with. So I think that's one of the aspects of AI. And you can think about how that plays out in marketing. We think of a world of outbound marketing is something we don't do in a B2B sense. So we do entirely inbound. Everything is kind of content based. I think while AI has the potential to create better outbound, so you have better written emails you can get, there's just so much more of it that I'm sure you guys have the same experience where inbox is just full of things that are really great copy, but it all looks like spam because it's all kind of written using the same tools. So we avoid that. And kind of the opposite is that the power is actually in the buyer journey, right? In the customer journey. They have more ability than ever to kind of discover things. So give them the tools that they need to kind of discover you.
I think Ben and I need to be best friends. Ben has like the 8 things you said there resonated with me really deeply, Ben. If we can go just back to what you talked about with regard to taste and like the sense of what brand is versus like retention. The thing you talked about, like about innovating in the open and knowing who you stand for, I think that applies to any brand, in any club, any fitness club or any boutique studio. I was on a panel recently at the Athlete Tech Summit, and we were talking about AI. And one of the things we were talking about is don't let AI steal your brand. Don't get so enamored of AI that you forget who you are and creating that unique niche around who you are and talking about it, right? So, a couple things that stood out to me is like that sense of brand resonance has to go through every aspect of your kind of end-to-end customer experience. And when you do that, then you do create that loyalty, that brand affinity that keeps your member retention. Something else you touched on though, which is like, being found and the role of, being found and retention and how interlocked they are. The example I always give is your Google reviews are they're an indicator of your brand loyalty and your retention, but they're the biggest driver in this AI world of your inbound right now. Like they are feeding the LLMs because the LLMs want a credible source about your location, about your gym, about your brand, et cetera. So like that is so interrelated right now, and using AI to drive reviews is one of the best things you can do for your brand. So like so many things you touched on, but like that's just one aspect for me that I think about and talk about a lot, is the importance of knowing who you are, creating that niche, making sure your reviews are talking about it, like asking for reviews about your specific brand differentiator, and then leveraging that to get AI to answer when somebody's looking for, best CrossFit gym near me, best martial arts, best, personal training, whatever it might be that is unique to your brand experience that you're creating, that's really resonating and pulling forward, because search is going to be very disrupted and brand is going to be a major part of it, and which is indicated through how your customers are talking about you.
I love that part, Wendy, because I think usually AI is kind of like either a buzzword or something that is built on top of, maybe the data that you already collect or the video or the access control, but using AI to drive those reviews and to drive that customer engagement seems like a pretty important thing to me. So love that that's something that you're measuring.
Mobile experience can do that. If your members have the ability to turn on notifications, making it super seamless and easy for them to do a single click in the mobile app and give that review is part of that experience.
No, I love that. I think you both touched, and yeah, you definitely need to be best friends if that wasn't clear already. But you both touched on two things that I find really valuable. When you mentioned basically, your brand is what people talk about you when you're not in the room. You have to have fans. And Wendy, you also touched a lot on like the customer experience and how to make sure that that user is really been driven into the end goal without feeling like it's just disconnected. In this process, have you found any features in the apps that have driven this kind of like loyalty and this retention and engagement? Or you think this is more of a question that is more specific to each brand to resolve?
Carl, you want to start on that one?
I think I'll pass on that one first, get your ideas, and then I'll see what I can contribute with.
Yeah. I think Ben hit on it when he talked about the kind of frictionless user experience and protecting that UI as much as possible. And then the second thing I would say about that is think about that all the way through the end-to-end experience, all the way down to like the payment and the checkout experience. It's interesting how leaning into something as simple as alternative payment methods and modern payments infrastructure and process can create a really great user experience. Everybody's kind of loyal to their You know, like I'm Apple Pay, but other people could be Google Pay. Like, you know, there's stablecoin that's evolving and showing up. Like people are going to have their desired experiences. And so making those as kind of seamless and frictionless as possible in the brand is about creating a fantastic brand experience. So you got to think about that all the way through the end-to-end process.
For us, one of our key features is integrated video replays. And this goes back to the frictionless aspect. There are other systems out there that do video capture. They tend to be standalone systems where you have a separate login, you got to scan our QR code, and we're kind of the only system in the market that has this fully integrated video replay functionality. So if I go to a pickleball club, I walk on the court, I don't have to do anything. You know, camera's always running, something great happens, I just press a button, we capture that. We show it in club on we have 65-inch monitors there where people can see it. They have their own personal kind of like sports center moment. We try and keep that to 15 seconds so we keep people in the game. But the idea in terms of getting these is nobody has to sit there with an iPhone. Nobody has to set up a tripod. We live in a world where people want to have experiences and they want to share those experiences, but they don't want to do any work to share it. So, I mean, what we've found is if you create any friction in getting that, usage just plummets. Everybody likes it in theory, but it has to be kind of frictionless to kind of capture that. If you can create that frictionless experience, this is just like a massive, you're basically building virality into your product. So, you know, a lot of people say, show not tell. And you know, what's the best form of word of mouth is showing people. You know, you're going to go out and you're going to share this with your friends and your network, and it's one to many. Here I am having a great time in this club, right? And we let the clubs have their kind of watermark on it. They can have sponsor watermarks on it. It's a really neat monetization opportunity for clubs. You know, we have a presented by slot. So before the incident replay comes up, you have a presented by, you have kind of a sponsor logo there. We like to say it's billboards, but better, right? Billboards are passive. There's something that's in the background. We're delivering that right at the time of, you know, you think of this like maximum dopamine. You're excited. It's associated with something cool that happened. Everybody's staring at the screen, right? You guaranteed because somebody pressed the button they chose to that they're staring at the screen. So you have this great
hearing that, like it's totally exciting just hearing that, right? So like I can imagine being in the moment of that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's
You know,
also, sorry, Ben, go.
sorry. Well, and then you get the scale of social media behind it. People sharing these things out. We had one in the fourth quarter that got 3 million views. We have a partnership with the Dink, which is one of the major pickleball social media channels where anybody who's on our kind of pro tier with the cameras, their customers can submit replays to be considered for with the series called Clip That. I think we're in 12 posts in and we've done 1.3 million impressions. So they're averaging over 100,000 per. We do a what we call best of pickleball once a month. So we take some of the best highlights that are coming. We have a brand partner, Caitlin Kerr, who does voiceover for those. So it's like our own little kind of like sports center thing. We just posted our June one. You know, it's tracking towards 100,000 impressions. So these are great ways to for us to get exposure for the clubs that we serve. So we're increasing their brand awareness. By extension, we're increasing our brand awareness, which is great. But it's also we're trying to create a model that we want the clubs to basically copy. You know, so every one of them should have their own top 10, which is such a good way to like engage your community, and it should be a badge of honor. You know, I was in the top 10. I was the number one. You know, and you can basically do a bunch of things to kind of increase engagement. You know, have them do hashtags, you can create loyalty around that, give sort of incentives for people to contribute, and it becomes a very self-reinforcing motion. And I think I think Google reviews are powerful. You know, nothing beats a video though.
Yeah.
Right.
It also speaks to the convergence of your digital brand with your physical brand, which is ultimately the most important thing. Like what you interact with online and with digital tools is what you want to experience in the real world. And Carl, I think that actually segues pretty well into what Kisi does as well in providing that experience in the physical space while also ensuring that it's all very much like technology driven. I don't know if you want to talk more about what that experience looks like for, a user coming into a gym and interacting primarily with the app and basically booking online, creating their profile online to actually showing up to a physical door and accessing that facility.
Yeah, I think it's a good question how much a fitness club member actually wants to interact with the app while they're doing a workout. For me, it would be perfect if I could just leave my phone and the system is smart enough. There's AI working in the background, and I don't have to deal with an app in the first place. So that would be perhaps it's personal preference, but I think it might be nice to just just focus on the workout, get rid of the the explicit virtual realm there for a moment. I think what I realized also over the past year or so, because I was moving, I had to change club. It's still really hard to figure out what a gym has. Like, do they have a specific machine? Mapping that physical world onto something digital, like a SaaS that can help you understand what a gym offers. That's been quite tough actually, because I think there's still this divide between a lot of fitness chains. They want to do their own software. We already have great software platforms, but it's not really fully adopted yet. So what I was saying before about that final, that last mile that has to be covered to really get that experience. And I think payments was another topic Wendy mentioned. It's also not really been very smooth for me now here in Sweden. Signing up for another gym was actually a little difficult. I think it can get better. And finally, that's a very important thing for Sweden. The sauna is always cold, right? And sauna is so important to us. So when I get to the gym and I do a workout and I forget to turn the sauna on, it takes 30 minutes to warm up. I'm like, darn. So I think like what could be a really nice feature there for loyalty and a better experience overall is the moment I enter the fitness center, the sauna heats up. That would be something I like connect the unlock to the sauna trigger somehow. That would be amazing. Just a few pieces I've experienced over the past year.
That's actually a great segue into the next question, which is how important is segmentation, personalized communication for upselling and improving the user experience? So, Ben, you mentioned it would be really nice if all clubs, maybe beyond PodPlay, had some sort of digital tools in the physical space that could create that community, that engagement, that wow moment. And we're also seeing that Carl likes the sauna. Maybe not everybody does, but it is important to certain users to access certain features. So how important is it to, while continuing to scale your business and ensure that these features are replicable across multiple locations, if that's the type of franchise that you're trying to open and operate, how can you still be personal with each member that signs up? Maybe Wendy, you want to kick us off from like the marketing perspective?
I can definitely do that. I think this is, for us at Daxko, this is one thing we think about the uniting the member data with the in-club experience data. So, our member management platforms, they know these users. They know when they've checked in, what time of day they come, what programs they've signed up for, what classes they take, what their payment method is. If they're, in the nonprofit fitness space, do they donate? Do they volunteer, right? Like we have that kind of end-to-end view. So what you need to layer on top of that is what's the member, experiences that you can create. And I think this is where Ben was talking about earlier about like the importance of AI. Like this is a fantastic place for AI to come in and look at that data, recognize patterns, do segmentation, build engagement and retention programs, or even, at the front end acquisition programs that really engage that member based on the data, the behaviors, and the micro segmentation. So we have integration. We have, obviously we have access to all that data. We have integration partners that bring really interesting AI that lets our clubs access that data and build very segmented and targeted programs. Like one of our partners is V, and they do some really incredible, segmentation analytics that allows better targeting of your advertising against your ICPs, but also builds really strong acquisition and engagement, playbooks that gyms can run that will drive up adoption of programs, member retention. They can sense, based on usage patterns when a member might be flaming out, and you can see that ahead of time and re-engage them. Super important, because the cost of acquisition of a new member, we all know that cost of acquisition of member is way higher than retaining an existing member. So having those really deeply integrated retention programs is critical to the revenue retention and growth of the fitness facility. So I'm a big believer in exposing the underlying data, using AI to assess, and then having really smart engagement programs. I talked earlier about the democratization of this. In our boutique segment, our member management platform has all that built in, through the AI for the reviews, the AI for the outreach, the AI for the retention, consensus, trigger a campaign. Like, that's something a boutique studio owner is not going to be able to do if they want to spend time on the gym floor. If they want to be out coaching their members, if they want to be out engaging, they're not going to have time to like manually do all this. So this is like very big moment, I think, for these, in particular, smaller gyms to get access to this kind of like, your marketing assistant in a box, your front desk assistant in a box, right out of AI, which again, isn't about replacing those people, it's about supercharging them and supercharging your business.
I absolutely love that, Wendy, in terms of like supercharging your business and really your dedication to measuring retention. I was recently talking to someone in the industry, and they were basically like, well, fitness is so profitable because most people pay and then they never show up. And that's the best kind of business that you can have because it's just money. And I was like, that's suspicious. I disagree with your opinion, because I think that as operators, thought leaders, and vendors in the space, there's a responsibility to ensure that users are getting value out of what they're paying for. If they're just paying you and then they're never showing up, that's your problem as a business, because you are not targeting the right people. You want to create community. You want to ensure that there's loyalty. You want to ensure that you can continue to upsell, personalize the experience, have more referrals from what you're contributing to the industry. So I think it's really important to shift that mindset and say, well, actually, if I'm not focused on retention and people are not coming to my facilities, it's not because they just pay and then they don't come. It's maybe because you're not offering the right set of infrastructure for them to keep returning. Which also leads me,
yeah, just one more point about that, though, to Daniela, is consumer protection laws are evolving. Now, we just saw in the US, there was a very large mandate from the FTC called click to cancel, which meant that you had to offer a super easy cancellation experience. Now, that did get overturned last week by the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, but that doesn't mean that states aren't actively starting to regulate consumer protection and asking you to have a super easy process to cancel. So the best way to overcome that is create, incredible loyalty, and use these, like you said, create a great user and brand experience, a great gym experience, great offer, and make sure you're understanding the utilization patterns of your gym and engaging your members.
Vote. This is definitely going to be reshared on LinkedIn, this segment of the conversation. Cool. And Carl, I would love to also hear your thoughts on how integrations can contribute to that sort of engagement and loyalty, and the responsibility of operators to ensure that the user experience is excellent.
Yeah, I think as Wendy was saying, it's a lot about the data points. If we can connect the data points, then we learn more about the fitness member and what their preferences are. So personalization is just contextualization on a personal level. So it's really about having that context, and that's where we need data points. And the integration is between what is provided in a fitness center, what kind of classes they have, how do you get into that space, how do you find your way around that space, the amenities, and so on. I'm not really talking too much about the marketing perspective. I think Wendy covers that very well. So of course, that's really important too, to close that loop. So I think all of this together, you have a pretty good idea of who your customers are, what their preferences are already before they join, depending on what kind of marketing campaigns they respond to. So I think that contextualization is really important. As I was saying before with a sauna, that really is I might be a bit specific here, but for me, that is the key purchase decision I have, beside another one, which is a specific equipment that I need, piece of equipment that I need. That is a cross-country skiing trainer, because I go for there's a race in Sweden every year that a lot of people go to, and I want to exercise for that race. So I need those two things. I need a sauna and I need that equipment. And many times I don't know if these are available, if they're even working that particular week, if I could go to a different.
You just personified a brand niche that we were talking about earlier, about like know your niche. Being able to say, like, in particular in Sweden, we serve, we serve the people interested in cross country and we have this end-to-end experience. Like that's a niche. That's something you would want your reviews to talk about, right? The unique
Exactly.
experience of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's like when we talk about personalization, it is going to be a lot of these micro niches, right? Like people that are a little specific, maybe like me, but there's going to be a lot of them, and if you can cater to them, then you have a lot of like you have a strong degree of loyalty.
Yeah, I would pick up on two of these points. One is in terms of reaching people, um, I think historically sort of the default has been just spam everybody who's been through your door with as much communication, and that quickly like turns back on itself and you become annoying, right? So you want your communications in whatever form they come to be, you want them to be relevant to the person you're sending them to, you want them to be timely, and you want them to be valuable. If you can do that, then it's something that they are excited to see in their notifications or their email box rather than annoyed. So there's a kind of a threshold. You would rather be seen positively than negatively. So um, a lot of these things can go either way, right? They can really damage your brand if you're out there just kind of like you don't want to be seen as spammy. Um, so that's on the sort of communication side. The other, and this picks up on your point, Daniela, with breakage. I do think historically there is kind of, particularly in the gym world, because the gym world has been around a lot longer, it was primarily a membership-based model, right? And some of that was driven by the state of technology. So if you didn't have kind of, a lot of technology to manage this, memberships were the way to do it. It was easier to manage from kind of a payment standpoint. You kind of like bundle a whole bunch of things into one. It also lends itself really well to franchising because you have recurring revenue, which is great for the operator. They want to have recurring revenue, but sometimes it forgets about the underlying customer. And if you have a model that's dependent on breakage, like people not using what they pay for, I do think that's like highly unstable. And one of the things that will tip that over time is new models coming along. I do think technology today is allows for a lot more gradations, right? So you have kind of like pay as you go. Models are a lot more easy to manage in a way that's seamless with technology. You can also create different gradations of membership. So we tend to encourage, and I think the most effective clubs that we've seen on our platform tend to be hybrids. So it's not all membership or all pay as you go. You have a combination of these things along with programming. But even within membership, that you can create memberships that cater to different audiences. So, for example, a club that was created a membership that's specifically kind of focused on off-peak hours when they might have lower utilization. They've been able to find a population of customers that is cost sensitive, time insensitive, and they want to play a lot of pickleball. So you create a membership that kind of like directs those people, and now you've been able, not just that's valuable to the end customer, but it's valuable to you because you've load balanced your utilization. Instead of having one membership for everybody wants to play in peak hours. You now find this different population of people and you've given them something that's really valuable, and it serves you by load balancing your utilization. So I think there's something on the communication side, and then there's something on the offer side. And I do think it's much more stable if you're offering value. That's much more sustainable. You want to have kind of happy. And we talked earlier about retention. It's like having fans, right? I'm really getting value out of this, and they're kind of hearing me is very important to them.
Love that. It really resonates with me and too what you're saying about like even just using your data to understand, these opportunities and then building membership types around it. I see that in the wine market right now. There's a bunch of like unique membership types emerging around, as an example, somebody who may be more forward leaning and on wanting to give back to their community and creating a membership that includes a donation as part of it. Like there's just really interesting models that are evolving right now.
That's really interesting too. Awesome. Well, in the interest of time, I want to keep it to two more questions so that we also have some space for people attending the webinar to open up the floor. But basically with loyalty in mind, if there were 3 features that you could have into your own app, which ones would they be in the interest of prioritizing loyalty? Everybody's like, I don't want to start.
I'm actually like, I'm trying to think of that both from a personal standpoint and from a a platform provider standpoint, right? I think the payments one that I talked about earlier is going to be an emerging area that is going to drive loyalty. I know it doesn't sound that compelling, but it actually, people are going to be very loyal to their type of payment and want it to be completely frictionless. For me, it is, I do think the integration of every experience in the club, being able to, book a piece of equipment or know what's there or know how busy it is. I think those kind of experiences are going to be important. Like for me, it's important if I go, yesterday I ended up actually sitting for 30 minutes waiting for the cryo things. I really wanted to put the cryo around my knee. Like it would have been, I could have gone an hour later if I would have known the cryo chair wasn't available till then. So those kind of, unique experiences I think are critical. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I think, number one is just overall user experience, ease of use. I think the expectation needs to be, I want to sort of get what I want as easy as possible with as few clicks as possible, and that kind of runs through lots of other things. I do think this kind of like replay feature is something that we've hit on. We've spent a lot of time thinking about. I think it's very powerful. People like seeing themselves. There's something about seeing yourself, whether it's funny, whether it's amazing. We've all had that experience where you're on a pickleball court or tennis court or a basketball court. You do something amazing and you look around and you say, did anybody see it? And so we've created a system where you don't have to look around. You can just go press a button and capture it, and now everybody can see it. And I think that's a very, very powerful feature. And then I think that the last point, and this fits into kind of the partnership with Kisi and what the autonomous model enables. I think there are things that I think are durable consumer wants, right? And we'd say flexibility. So whether that's time, proximity, they want it to be, they want to go to these experiences kind of near where they work, where they live. Um, uh, there is community. So they want to kind of, in some senses, in a gym sense, sometimes people don't want community. They just want to be by themselves lifting weights. But a lot of the sports that we serve are more social sports where people are looking to kind of build community, and then value. So insofar as technology can kind of increase any of those things, and ideally all of those things, you're going to create something that people want. I think that was a little bit of a play off of kind of, Jeff Bezos has this idea that people are always going to want cheaper prices, faster delivery, and more selection. That those things are never going to go out of style. So in the fitness world, I think that those 4 things are the things that we've identified as what are the just durable consumer needs.
Awesome. Carl, what about you in terms of 3 features that an app should have in the spirit of loyalty to wrap up?
Maybe I can combine it with the prediction about disruptive things. I would appreciate if it was if AI learned my preferences, and then it would help me understand when and how to consume my fitness experience. So are you on your way to the gym right now? Sorry, but that ski erg is taken and it's very busy today, and suggest something else. And also remember when I went last time, maybe send a reminder, just like a concierge, be smart, help me. Day is busy already. How can I have a more fun and less like a more fun experience, less friction? And I'm also thinking a lot about how gyms nowadays and fitness centers, how they integrate with a lot of other things. So there's gyms that have pickleball in combination, and we see you can get a smoothie. It might be in a shopping mall, and you have an experience right next to it. I don't really have a clear vision for that part yet, but I think just bringing things together, so it's not like going to the gym and you like you walk through the door and the grind starts. It's more like you enter, you exhale, and then you enjoy the experience. More in that direction.
I like that mindfulness approach. You enter, you breathe, and then you go kick ass. Awesome. Well, this was a great discussion. I think we really covered a lot, all the way, you know, from brand loyalty to creating fans and how you can get them to really show up to your space, applying digital tools into your physical space to create community. And also what I really like is that commitment to retention, Wendy, that you specifically mentioned, just to make sure that you're not just lucky to get someone's money, you're really making sure that they are part of what you're building. And that to me is really interesting. So thanks to anybody that attended. I don't see any questions in the chat. So if you have any, now is the time to ask. If not, we will of course send this recording as well. And there's space there to connect with the panelists, connect with any of the teams that you might be interested in continuing the conversation with. And yeah, we have more sessions coming up in August and October if you're interested in learning about more topics in the fitness industry. Cool. And thank you, panelists, of course. This was awesome. Appreciate
Thank you,
your time.
Daniela.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.